So, hello everyone, and welcome to the AI Odyssey, ethical, practical, and incredible. We welcome you all to start the new journey with us. And this new journey's purpose is to bring products, people, and processes together. We have all seen how there are conferences and events which are focused on the tech side. We want to take it one step further by introducing you to the business side, the product side, and the tools, processes, etc. Having said that, I'll just give a quick intro for myself. So I've joined Salesforce since last almost 3 years now. I work as a product owner, senior analyst. I work on an internal product. My role includes managing backlog, etc. And I can see more participants joining. Happy about that. And having said that, I'll give it to the panelists to introduce themselves. Jolly, you're on mute.
Sure. Audible?
Yes.
Yes, Joanna. Okay. Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Jolly, and yeah, I have not been working much on the Salesforce side, but right now I'm integrating Salesforce with cybersecurity. And like initially, I had been C# developer and working on various Microsoft technologies for around 13 years. So yeah, I'm doing my second master's right now in cybersecurity and integrating it with AI and Salesforce and as well as IoT. So I hopefully expect that I can help some information to all of you on that basis. I'll hand over it to Prashant.
Hey all, I'm Prashant. I'm founder and CEO of Zeda.io. We are a product management platform building a tool for product managers using AI. So, in my experience, have been building product for 10 years. And a good part of that has been in building AI products. So, yeah, it's been a good journey building AI products since 2016. Before this thing was cool. So looking forward to talk on product management more. Yeah, giving over to Shreya.
Thank you, Prashant. Hello, all. I'm Shreya. I currently manage the pre-sales for the whole of CME, which is the Communications, Media, Entertainment, and the complete Salesforce CME practice for Tech Mahindra. And I have more than 16 years of experience in this consulting world. I have been a part of many complex digital transformations right from the scratch. And as part of our day in, day out activities now, yes, a lot of AI has been coming up as a request, as a question, and also Tech Mahindra is doing a lot of AI on the other side of the spectrum, not just from a Salesforce perspective, but also out of Salesforce, like on the quantum AI and all. So glad to be a part of this discussion, and very happy to meet you all. I'm also a marketing champion for the year 2023, declared by Salesforce. Thank you so much. I will pass it on to Vivek. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. Hi, I'm Vivek. I'm currently working at Salesforce as the Senior Director for External Strategy. What that means is that I work with the Indian government and governments in our neighboring countries over here to figure out how we can work together on policies that are being designed by the government. Obviously, a lot of the focus now is on AI-related policy. So around the ethics of it, regulation of it, cybersecurity, anything that has to around the development of it, anything around research of it. Before this, I was working with the government. I spent about 5 years working for an agency called Invest India. And before that, I used to be an investment banker for about 8-9 years. So yeah, a bit of a zigzag journey to where I am today. But I'm been here at Salesforce for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, and happy to be here. Thank you, Lucky, for bringing us together.
Happy and humbled to have all of you here. And with that, we'll kick off our panel discussion. So my first question is, what are the customers asking from AI today, and what do you think customers will be asking from AI in future?
So how do you go about it? Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Okay, sure. So basically, as I said, I mean, ours is when we talk about any service industry, right? So it's a completely customer focused, customer based industry. When we talk about retail, if we talk about telecommunication, media, entertainment, you talk about auto, manufacturing, banking, any sector, right? Retail sector, pharma sector. So basically, what is it that we are all trying to achieve? We are ultimately trying to have a customer satisfaction. We are trying to gain more customers. We are trying to understand our customers better, right? So for all of that said, AI is actually touching upon each and every part of it. So if I take an example, right, for like if I talk about a retail industry, maybe giants like Primark and all, if I am to understand how AI would be helping that strategy, I could actually try and have maybe AI understanding what is it that in a particular season my customers are looking for. Maybe there are certain colors that are being preferred in certain countries. If there are special kind of requirements for a particular country or particular age group of people, all of that is something that we are trying to bring a kind of a predictability based on or by the usage of AI. So that is what definitely AI is bringing for us. AI is actually helping the customers to actually get the right content for themselves, have that kind of upsell, cross sell based on what they are really looking for, and not just have like some kind of junk offers sent to them, right? So basically a personalized way of delivering content to the people, a way of having the right information at the right time delivered to you, and also knowing the person end to end, right? And how do we increase the business going forward? So I think that's what all the businesses, including if you talk from a Salesforce standpoint, what we are seeing is Salesforce has actually tried to give better efficiency, not just for their customers but even for their internal users or for the developers, right? If you might be knowing that we have Einstein for developers now, we have the code builder which has gone beta, then we have got a lot of AI features which are now enabled on Marketing Cloud, which are enabled on Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, even on Slack, right? So with all that said, I think the kind of focus that we have on AI now is bigger than ever. And I think it's the right time to drive that AI wave. So with that said, I think if somebody else wants to comment, I tried to cover whatever I felt. So yeah.
Giving the Salesforce
Thank you.
perspective and the partners perspective.
Yes.
And as you said, the company started before the AI wave. So
Correct.
what are your insights and what do you think will be the future?
I think when we talk about what people are asking, most of there are two type of customers, enterprise and B2C. Uh, B2C is being driven by media, like security, etc. Uh, and a lot of FOMO. Uh, and enterprises are still trying to figure it out. They don't want to left out in the journey. So they want to, oh, AI is going to be the next thing. And they're going to, we get a lot of banks and everyone, oh, you are building the AI tool, we want to check it out. So I think they're still trying to figure out what they want. And my basic thought comes down to fundamentals that AI is still a technology which need to solve a problem. So it should start with the problem. What is the problem? And then see that AI is a solution to that or not. Not start with AI and then figure out a problem. Because that's what people did with Web3 and we know what happened. That's what people do with any hype cycle and we end up in loss. So I think uh, identifying the problem which companies need to first identify and then go look out for solution. Yes, one thing which I keep on hearing every time, and that's not something new, is because we work with in a startup I worked with, they worked for State Bank of India, HDFC Bank, which are big names in India. And their thought was data compliance, data security, privacy, which again, it becomes a word to be used that, oh, we want to have data security, compliance, privacy, but what it means, people don't know. It's just that, oh, we don't want to share data, but we everyone is sharing data, and I have this very famous thing which I say that if someone, there's this company which said we don't want to use data because compliance and all, we don't like sharing data, and I asked him that you are on a Gmail, getting on call with Zoom, using a laptop by Windows, you're sharing data with everyone anyway. So, have you thought about that when you use Gmail? So then they were like, oh yeah, makes sense. So I'm just saying that it's a currently very uh, confusing place for most of people who don't know what they want.
Makes sense. And as you talked about security, my next question is actually about security. So what we have noticed that since ChatGPT or generative AI in broader terms, the cyber attacks are getting more and more sophisticated. So how do we protect businesses and end consumers? Jolly, I think you would be the first one there.
Yeah, you said it right. Like there's a lot of increase in phishing attacks. I think it was already there like from last many years, but it increased with ChatGPT because the people who didn't know how to code to do the phishing attack, they are also easily able to do it, right? Because ChatGPT really gives you everything on the plate, like how to write the sophisticated email, which can actually make you feel that, okay, yeah, this is a legitimate email. It's not a phishing email. So that's how it has really overpowered the sense of using human to write a good emails, which was actually earlier required, that people had to, employ good coders, good English knowing people, or who can write good emails to make sure that it doesn't feel like a phishing attack. So yeah, obviously it has given a very good tool to create a lot of cybersecurity attacks. But I think most importantly, what presently researchers are doing is they are like developing the tools to identify whether this email is AI generated text or it is just human generated text. Because mainly earlier it was a lot of grammatical mistakes or a lot of sentence phrases mistake which cannot be identified. But yeah, this is what researchers are doing. But right now, at the high level, what organizations can do is like they really need to have cybersecurity policies in the place. They need to make sure that every employee of the organization is aware about those policies. They need to be trained for that. They need to be made aware that, okay, this is how you need to use your systems. Like Prashant rightly said that if you're using Gmail, how can you say you are safe? No, because no offense for Google, but yeah, whatever you are doing on Google, whatever you are searching on Google, whatever you're writing on Gmail, everything is open. So it's really, you need to make sure what kind of browser you are using. Like, for example, I personally use DuckDuckGo, right? Because it doesn't save any of your data while you're searching it. So you need to make sure that what kind of browser you are using, what kind of protocols you are using while configuring your emails into your organization. So that's again a technical part, but yeah, there are some protocols which you need to follow while that thing. And employee awareness is the key feature over here, because mainly data breaches happen because of unawareness of the employees, human element. That's the main concern over here when any of the cybersecurity attacks happen. And obviously the strong authentication methods, like most of the application nowadays, they are saying, okay, two-factor authentication. So I think that's the key. We need to make sure that all our apps, all our devices in the organization are multi-factor authenticated, mainly biometric. But now again, also you need to make sure when you are using biometric authentication, it's on cloud, which is also a secure one. Because like, again, if your biometric data is there in the open, it can be misused in any sense. So yeah, there are a lot of features which you really can implement at the organization level to make sure that organization as well as employee of the organization's data privacy and security is maintained.
Brilliant.
Just to add one thing to Jolly, as she was speaking about the way we want to, educate our end users or educate our even employees internally, right? A very good thing that I just saw, and I've been a part of TechM for a while now. So basically what they generally do, and I'm not sure whether that is also followed across in other companies, but we are receiving emails, and they send out certain emails which will try to phish you. And if you get caught on that, they will actually come back to you saying, see, this was what was the phishing attack that we intentionally did for you, and you should be aware of what kind of things that come up or that might come up, and you have to protect your data. You have to protect the way you click on any particular links, or you share your information with anybody. So I think that's a very good cybersecurity model plus awareness that has been also now percolated into the system. And they do have a lot of trainings and everything which is associated to it. So if you are not, or rather, if you're caught as part of that particular phishing attack, you will have to redo the training. So that's how I think we'll have to ensure a kind of awareness happens across your ecosystem. Otherwise, it's a time that we have to be really careful of. So,
Yeah. And to add to this, there are a lot of tools. Maybe I can share the list at the end of the session if we have some time, which people can actually use them in their day-to-day life, at least not at the organization level, but at your personal devices level, because that will also help you save your data and organization data, because you are connected with the organization, right? So you need to make sure that how you secure those data. So yeah, we can discuss that more if time permits.
Sure. And you raised a brilliant point about policy. As we have Vivek here, a question for you, Vivek, that we recently saw towards the end of the October that Biden's office actually issued an executive order for safe and trustworthy use of AI. Can we expect something similar for India and South Asia? And what should be the businesses and consumers be asking for that?
Yeah. So that's a very good question, and I think one of the things that I've been consistently hearing from government is they would like to have a regulatory model, but they were also concerned that regulation in any form will put some brakes on innovation. Um, and this is the unique perspective of India. I think many other countries, for example, in Japan, they are very, very concerned about misuse of IP, because for developed countries like France, Germany, Japan, and UK, IP is a very, very important revenue earner for companies and for governments. Including your tax is earned on IP in a big way. So if AI is able to replicate that at all zero or little cost, I think that's a big concern, and that's one of the objectives that they're trying to address. I don't know whether we will see an executive order style announcement in India. Two reasons. One is um, there is not an enabling act yet in the parliament. So I think one will have to figure out where or which act is going to enable this particular AI regulation. If it's going to be under the IT Act, then you have the Digital India bill that is being debated and discussed in the public space. That may come about in the next year, but right now we have not really figured that out. And companies and civil societies and a lot of individual contributors are sort of having that conversation with the ministry on um, what shape and form the Digital India Act should look like. So I think we are in early days. To sum up, I think we are still figuring out what our regulatory objectives are. There has been a lot of discussion and focus on ethical use and development of AI. And funnily enough, the telecom department has taken upon itself to lead the charge on this. They've released a document on ethical development of AI. They've taken inputs from a lot of companies, including Salesforce. Although their focus is on AI being used in the telecom sector, um, this you could see could set a precedent for AI being used in other sectors as well. So I'll stop there. I don't think there is any very large scale discussion on an executive order. We are watching it closely as the government. Um, yeah, maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, um, we may say something. But before I pass it on to the next speaker, I just want to also add, I've seen that there's been a history of different events catalyzing very specific policies. So one of those events has been this recent rise of deepfakes, which is also a misuse of AI. And maybe under public pressure and conversation that's happening, maybe there is an element of regulation of deep fakes or authentic information. The other space that you could envisage some development is India is working on DPI for data, which is also called data empowerment and protection architecture. And using data, you could potentially regulate for misuse of personal data in AI training. And that's another piece that is being talked about, discussed, being developed, will probably be publicly available in the next few months. So I'm just saying, these are different areas on the horizon where AI regulation could intersect with us. I don't know when exactly it will come, but these are all very, very active threads of discussion.
So
Mm,
with yesterday only, I was actually reading about this, and I think I saw that Narendra Modi ji saw his deepfake video of basically doing some garba, and he was like surprised. So I feel that probably with that kind of a quick thing coming up suddenly onto the PM, I think this will be pretty faster than what we expect. So maybe the regulations have to be brought in faster than ever before now, with everybody getting impacted, even the social conditions, even the war conditions, anything and everything might get impacted, right? So I think it's high time for probably for everyone to start thinking through the kind of regulations that we want to bring in.
Absolutely. If you can use technology to have the prime minister say something that's not,
Yeah.
in alignment with what he usually says, and sort of create some panic on, what is this change of policy, and that, especially in an election year, that's quite sensitive.
Yeah, true.
So, but on the other hand, it's very difficult to create authentication in the legal framework. How do you, because usually it's two extremes. One is self-regulation, the other one is very draconian bureaucratic stuff. You have to have model verification, you have to have companies being registered. Now, if you imagine that, if you were to go, because India tends to go on the bureaucratic side, if they start saying every company that's using AI or developing AI needs to register with the Indian government, and there's a whole bunch of paperwork that you need to do. Until that time, any other AI that is being developed is completely illegal, and people will be put in jail and fined and etc. I don't think anybody on this call is for that kind of a model. But unfortunately, in extreme situations, that's the kind of model of regulation that comes out, where you've got penalization, you've got fines, you've got paperwork, registration, authentication, verification. So I think, yes, there is pressure, but I also hope that the government takes its time to figure out what is the right way to regulate this. This is a new thing. I don't think anybody's got it right. We need to really have this discussion before we go out and do something that's wrong.
Yeah, but I'd like to add one more thing over here. Is like, because right now in Finland, and had been discussing about this AI laws and regulations, and I just realized that they were planning to bring this law for AI regulation like from last 10 to 12 years, which if my figures are correct. And it's just last week they were able to implement this AI regulation law in Europe. So like for the developed countries also, it took like more than 10 years to bring it into practice. So we have a long way to go. But obviously we are positive of that. We need to do that.
Yeah.
And in conjunction, the next question is for Prashant and Shreya. What are the topmost concerns or the factors that cause discomfort when it comes to adoption of AI within the customer base of your respective customer bases?
So one thing I can say is that, which I mentioned earlier, uh, the concern of how data will be used here, because AI has one other element, which is AI need to be trained. Now, if you have two companies which are your customer and they both compete with each other, if you train your data, each company has that, oh, they might get advantage from our data. So that's the tricky part where adoption becomes a challenge to either build a standalone environment where the AI will be served. That's one. And the second thing is, trust me, people think AI to be a lot more powerful than it actually is. And that's the expectation level, which is a bit misaligned. Someone today actually said that, oh, Sam Altman getting fired, and we are one step away from humanity getting wiped out. And I'm like, AI is not at even close to that point. And that's what happens when we get customer on board. They think that AI will actually create some magic, but it doesn't. You need to train the model, and every company is different. So data is different. You have to train it, you have to work it, you have to adjust the weight to make it actually useful for you. So one, the concerns related to security privacy, especially with certain sectors like health tech, fintech, enterprises, even public sector. We were working with some public transportation company, and they had concerns. So that becomes one. And the second, people's expectation that if this is AI, then all the problems will be solved in our product management. I'm talking about my use case, but that's not going to happen. You still have to work with it. So I think these are two challenges in adoption of any new technology. AI currently is facing that.
Understood.
From my perspective, I think what I've seen generally, yes, everybody is looking for AI. Everybody wants that. Maybe I see a couple of points over here. From a Salesforce standpoint, if I talk about first to start with, right? The kind of roadmap that even Salesforce has given right now is not too clear on this. Because I was expecting, for example, that by October 2023, I should be actually getting an access to Einstein Copilot, right? Which is one of their assistants, chatbot, which will be available across all the clouds. So maybe I am really looking forward to it, but something which is not yet clear, when will it be released? And now it has been pushed to January 2024. So yes, I think everybody wants it, but the roadmap clarity is something that from a product standpoint, as well as from a stability and a scalability standpoint, is something that we are looking for. So that is one thing. The next thing, as Prashant rightly mentioned, right, of course, that the privacy part is something which is very concerning. If you're talking about like government projects, definitely then this question comes up. What is it that we can do to ensure that the data doesn't go out? The kind of model which is getting trained on my data doesn't go and train somebody else, right? Or my data doesn't get leaked to somebody else. So all of that concern is definitely there, for which we know that from Salesforce perspective, we are speaking about Einstein trust layer. So that trust layer, how does it really work? That is something that we want to, even as a practitioner, I would want to get into more details, right? So I definitely want to go the AI way. I actually, from my perspective, always suggest people, we have opportunities on the sales side where you can have the email GPT, for example, right? The email GPT is there to help you, or the Slack GPT is there to help you. All of that is there. But of course, the kind of transparency on how this is getting implemented, how it will be, storing your data or may not be storing your data. That's what it is said, right? So all of that is very important to understand. And another thing is, of course, there are like kind of pros and cons to everything. So we know the kind of biases or the hallucinations that we talk about. We have seen a lot of videos wherein you would have seen that how an AI predicts a particular salesperson, for example. It's always a male, right? If it is like a teacher, it's always a female. If it is a CEO, it's always a male, right? So all of these are nothing but a human in the loop who has actually created all of this, right? So those kind of biases, which are unknown biases, are getting created by it. So there has to be a human in the loop to always validate what is happening as well. So that is another thing which I feel that the unknown biases are being created, which probably we might have to have a level of validation to ensure that doesn't happen, right? And again, the hallucinations part, wherein I actually read somewhere that they were trying to. I think there is something called as a poisoning AI. I'm not sure whether you all have read of that. So there is a new AI that has been created to ensure that, I always feel, I think somebody has already read it. So thanks for that. So because my dad is an artist, so I always felt that with AI, I see a lot of, infringement happening on the work that he's doing, right? Or him or his community of artists is doing. And now they have come up with a poisoning AI wherein it will ensure that it actually changes the kind of pixel way how it actually works, and then it will basically misguide your model to ensure that this is although it is an image of a dog, but the AI can only predict it as a cat. So which is a very interesting thing. So I think with technology we have both positives, negatives. We know which way to go, right? So always err on the right side of things. So that's what I feel, that the adoption is definitely what we want, but the transparency and the intent, right, that definitely matters.
Yeah. Vivek, I'll let you voice your insights. Just one quick thing for you, Shreya. Actually, Salesforce has developed a special council for AI ethics.
Okay,
And
that's
there are
nice.
various teams which are also working on eliminating biases, hallucinations, and
Awesome.
even masking of data, preventing any sort of data misinterpretations. So there is
That's
your
really good. Yeah,
and
include partners to talk about that. That will be
yeah,
good.
yeah. We'll set up a different
Yeah.
call with you.
Sure.
Vivek, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think what Shreya was talking about is a very interesting aspect about bias and how recognition of different elements happen in a certain way. And I think that's reflective. And if you're talking about DALI and ChatGPT and all the other publicly available models, I think a lot of it is happening because the internet is inherently biased, right? You have a overwhelming amount of content from a particular part of the world, not enough content from India or APAC. Or apart from English, there's very little content actually. So you have an overwhelming thought process, ideology coming from the Western side, and that bias will show up in a publicly available large language model. So for India, if you want to sort of remove bias from an India perspective, I think then what you really need to do is think about going down two paths. One is, um, you build your own large language model, or you start organizing your data, which I understand is not very widely done, even in companies. I think we really need to invest our time and effort where we need to put together our AI data lakes together and have those data streams sort of go in the right directions and create those insights that we want. I don't think we have really done that legwork, but India as a country is sitting on mountains of data, health data, travel data, biometric data, yes, pharma data, crop data, traffic data, and all of it is there somewhere, but we have not been able to unlock it because it's scattered all across the place. So just going back, so to address bias, we either build our own LLM or we start creating custom LLM models on top of what's available in public using the data that's already available out there. And I think in today's world, given that we have a shortage of chips, or the chips have become really expensive, and it will take some time for us to build that kind of capacity that has been existing in the Western world and in China for years now. And to start developing custom LLM models from scratch, 100 billion or trillion parameter model is going to take some time. And by that time, you already see all our competitors will move another step forward, another order of magnitude forward. So we will always be playing catch up and we will always be needing resources. So I think the focus really needs to be on figuring out how do we organize these mountains of data? Because at the end of the day, the publicly available LLM will reduce to becoming your infrastructure, your rails of the ecosystem. Everybody will be using the same rails infrastructure, But using your own customization and the data that you bring to the picture is what's really going to differentiate you, right? Because you can have ChatGPT to do your customer pitches and all of that. But if you ground it and if you sort of add in your customer CRM or your let's say if Bloomberg adds its financial services data into the mix, obviously the level and quality of insights that you will get is much, much better as compared to what you would get from just the publicly available chat GPT. So I think the focus is sort of shifting there. And I think when at least the conversations that I've been hearing, when companies are going in to implement AI, they very rapidly discover that although the intention is there, but the legwork and the groundwork to actually put together the data in the right way has not yet been done. And so a lot of the investment now, and if you see Salesforce's sort of pivot, it's been from Einstein or GPT, everything to data cloud now. So it's now data CRM. We're focusing on the data aspect of it. Let us organize the world's data, the corporate data, and then AI is a consequence of that, right? You cannot have one before the other. So I think I'll just leave it there. I covered a lot of ground. India's strategic priorities need to be on data. You need to have companies also focusing on data. We are sitting on a lot of data, and that has to be the differentiator that we will take into the future. We cannot be focusing on just developing LLMs because we will always be playing catch up.
Brilliant
Just to
point. Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Sorry, just to add on this, right? I think there's a as you rightly mentioned, right? If we are relying on LLMs from others and we are not developing our own things, we will not be ever able to make that differentiating factor, and will not be able to tell our side of story. So that is where, I mean, I just wanted to, I think I was discussing the other day with Lucky that we from a TechM standpoint, we have something called as a Makers Lab, and they are actually in a lot of this quantum AI and research and developing their own LLMs. So we have actually recently launched a project Indus, which talks about having a Hindi LLM and Hindi with the different dialects, right? Whatever are present within India. So that is something which is like a step towards localizing our flavor. So that's something that, yes, some of the companies are already doing, including TechM. I don't know, others might be already ahead of the curve as well. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is what I just wanted to say, that yes, there are kind of like thought through phases that we are going in to do that catch up quickly. So yeah.
Perfect. You read my mind. I was going to ask you
Okay.
to share the
Okay.
same.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And on the points of chips, so my question again to you, Vivek, is given that some countries will have superior or more resources like infrastructures, bots, and whatnot, we can think that the geopolitical dynamics will change. So, how do you suggest that businesses, employees, and consumers should prepare themselves for the same?
Um, I think we still are at that position where geopolitics is a factor that will affect your business, but it will not be an overriding factor. What I mean by that is, specifically around chips, for example. Um, Let me just do a quick recap of what the situation is now. So 80% of all AI chips or GPUs are being supplied by one company, which is NVIDIA. A lot of it is coming, or 90% of it is coming in from Taiwan. I don't see that mix changing anytime in the in the next 2 years from now. But what has changed is there has been a ban from the US on NVIDIA to sell in chips into the US into China. So whereas about 60% of NVIDIA's production would go into China, now probably through black or gray market channels, it's only 20%. So what that means is that there is this slack of 40% that has suddenly come up in the market, and you can potentially get those chips. So that's what I meant. It is a factor, but it's not that big a factor that you will really suffer from it. So I think companies can and should build AI capacity by sort of setting up their own LLM models or investing in infrastructure capacity, I think there will be new business models that will come up in India where people who have built up infrastructure capacity will be able to offer it to others at a rental, kind of a model. But the other aspect, I think, what in specifically in the AI space we will be looking at is some sort of regulation around which models can come in and train on your data, right? And I think there will be some level of verification or authentication. It may not be an extreme version, but I think definitely there is an effort, there is a thought process that AI models from certain countries which are not trusted will be excluded from entering your country. So I don't know how that will play out for different companies. It depends on whether you have development centers in those areas or not. If you have, then you probably start need to thinking about relocating them. But as such, I think as of now, it has not really affected the average business person's day to day. The other aspect obviously has been around cybersecurity. So cybersecurity nowadays is less of a single individual attacking your systems. It's more of nation states really targeting a few individuals or a few people across companies. And instead of companies sort of doing corporate espionage on each other, it's actually governments doing that corporate espionage. So I think the resources or the level of effort and energy that is being devoted is of a different order of magnitude. And AI is a big factor in that, because you can use AI to leverage it 100,000, a million times, depending on the infrastructure that you have access to. So I think one must be prepared. One must be, prepared to sort of make those investments in creating resiliencies. Um, there's obviously a lot of investment going on into making physical infrastructure investments, but I think not just physical infrastructure investments, your talent investments, your software investments, your model investments, I think need to be equally resilient as well. I think we are heading into a change where we haven't really gone there yet. So as of now, not much of an effect, but yeah, we can see it on the horizon and we need to be prepared for it.
Brilliant. And on that point, interestingly enough, Hyperforce is also one of the offerings that Salesforce provides. And as per stats, it used to take around 2 years to set up a new data center. That time has exponentially decreased with Hyperforce coming into picture. In fact, you can spin up your sandboxes or even production orgs in matter of minutes. So
Yes.
as you correctly said, we can think about other alternatives, and I think Salesforce is already going on the right path. Next question is related to the same. As we talk about infrastructures, we also see that since ChatGPT and due to all the deepfakes that have been around, basically almost all sorts of content verifications broke down. May that be a traffic light verification while logging into Gmail, or your phone-based identity verification for your bank accounts. Now, given that this is the condition now, what could be the alternatives for the verification and authentication methods going forward? And does generative AI's adoption for cybersecurity help us with that? And Jolly, I'll give you the stand to answer that. I can't see your video properly, so you might want to restart that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's some issue because it shows me it's like kind of purple, but I'm not sure if I'm visible because my video is on. I'm not sure, but I hope I'm audible at least.
Yes, you're
Yes,
audible.
you're audible.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of issues which you mentioned, Lucky, rightly, with the authentication and verification. But yes, AI is really very helpful in cybersecurity. Obviously, it comes with its cons as well. But mainly it helps, like what we use AI in cybersecurity is mainly in the 4 stages. We try to use artificial intelligence as part of identification, then verification as well. And we also use AI for researching purpose, like based on the data which we are using it, right? But again, when we say that we want to use AI, we expect that it is giving us the intelligence equivalent to human or more than human, right? So obviously, when we try to do that, we feed a lot of data. So basically, we are analyzing a lot of data which we were not actually using while only human was analyzing all this kind of data. So obviously, it gives a lot of good prediction of data very quickly. It analyzes a lot of data in a single run in very short amount of time. And it also helps, organizations to identify the cyber threats, cyber attacks very quickly. And it also helps employees to mainly concentrate on other tasks rather than cybersecurity stuff, because it's already taken up by artificial intelligence board, which we are already designing in our organization. So that's the one thing where AI definitely helps in authentication, authorization, identification of cyber attacks. Plus, it also helps in, as I mentioned earlier, was regarding biometric authentication. So that's one of the best authentication supported by artificial intelligence. Obviously, we are nowadays using facial recognition as well, retina, and a lot of other biometric devices we are using it. So AI is definitely supporting it. But again, what issue comes over here is, although we are using this kind of biometric authentication to replace the password verification, it comes with a lot of issues of leaking of this biometric data. So because earlier when we come to know that, okay, our password has been hacked or our account has been hacked, we just used to change the password. But here, if our biometric data is hacked, your whole DNA, whole data is there with the hacker. So that's one of the also con of using AI in cybersecurity. And most importantly, like when we use AI also for network monitoring, because that's the main advantage of using also artificial intelligence in cybersecurity, because we constantly do surveillance, we constantly do monitoring of specific devices, specific domains, whether it's healthcare, whether it's banking domain, whether it's like e-commerce. But again, because we are using a lot of data which we are supposed to not access it, right? And most of the time this has been used without consent, because consent is the most important thing while we are using artificial intelligence. So yeah, when we are just using a lot of data over here. And yeah, so someone's saying?
Thought your voice just echoed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think that's one of the hurdle, that when we are using in cybersecurity, we are actually extracting a lot of data without the consent of human. And obviously, we are also exploiting all this data because we want to make sure that whatever cybersecurity attacks are being identified, we are using all this data, we are analyzing this data, and we really never know that how this data is analyzed. For example, ChatGPT gives us data based on the data which is already fed into the system, the machine learning algorithm which is designed, right? Now, you never know that whatever the data you are prompting in ChatGPT, how the data is used by ChatGPT, how the OpenAI is using that data, right? You never know it. So these are all the cons, that you use it for good purpose, but it comes with the negative cons that which you never know how it can be misused. Yeah, but I think that I will cut this short because it's a long discussion to go on the spot, but I hope it gives an idea that yeah, it comes a lot of backdrops by using AI in cybersecurity. It's always not a good thing to use AI, but we can use it.
We can totally have a separate discussion for that. And as you're talking about consent, the usage of data and more, we recently saw that Mustafa Suleiman, the founder of DeepMind and Inflection AI, said that the next phase of AI will be actually artificially capable AI, meaning it will take all actions from the creation of the product till revenue generation and collection and more. So with that coming as the next phase of AI, and a recent incident that happened in South Korea where a man lost his life due to misidentification by an robotic arm, and he was misidentified as the box, hence he lost his life. With these two coming together, how can business strategy and security come together to prevent such incidents, plus make the future innovations safer? And that is a question to all of you, but Prashant, you can kick it off.
I mean, I was actually going through, I'm reading currently Elon Musk biography, and there's this one chapter which touches this, that even though there are more accidents which happen to human uh, driving, and I'm pretty sure there are more accidents happen due to human negligence in factories and machinery. The ethical thing when a machine does that is a lot more. But in future, if things become more uh, like ho definitely driving on horses from one point to another was safer than cars. Driving, the survival rate in a plane crash is 0.0001%, but still we take it. So eventually, uh, same thing will happen with AI. That security, yes, there will always be some area where there will be effect, but overall efficiency gain will be so surplus that it will get rid, like push other things down. Uh, because that's what we are doing with vaccines. Like we know, um, playing with the virus is scary, but we are playing with them so that we are ready for it. And overall, those things have benefit, but it's just that when something negative happens, that becomes a highlight. So that is a mindset shift which will happen. Or if it doesn't happen, people will just force their way out. But the other part which you touch, where um, I'm so in San Francisco, I was actually at an event where I met this founder who's building a company where a lot of employees are uh, AI agents, meaning so if you there are no human employees, so there are 70% of the work is done by AI employees. So that will be a interesting part to see that how uh, AI will generate data which can be used to generate more value, or it could be more data. Current AI is only trained on existing data. So if you try to fill in uh, chat GPT with another chat GPT prompt, you don't get anything new. It's redundant. But in future, that will be a inflection point in probably human civilization where there will be new creation, and that creation could be in form of uh, and there's this that creation will be in form of creativity in terms of innovation in terms of value. And the most interesting thing which I was reading in a book was that how we now value handmade soap. They are more expensive. Organic milk is more expensive after industrialization. Similarly, after a few years, a song which is composed by actual human will be more expensive. Shah Rukh Khan actually playing in a movie will be the selling point as compared to its clone being used in a movie. So that will be a differentiator also in the businesses, uh, that how we perceive the content and value.
That's a very interesting point, Prashant, because basically we know that, right, the chat gpt earlier, the earlier versions of it was just trying to understand from the prompts and just trying to help you with giving that information. With DALI coming in, we had the pictures created in a best of the forms, and now we know that chat gpt can start writing things for you as well. So it's like, when I say writing, means the actual writing things. So it would have that kind of a impact of getting the positivity out of AI, but at the same time having that kind kind of control with a proper validation, set of rules, set of checks and balances, right? To ensure that it doesn't go haywire. So that would definitely be a ideal world.
Yeah. And I think to also address one of the things, Lucky, which you asked, like how the businesses should prepare for it, right? So I think I would just say in two words. One is like vigilance and awareness, that they are the two keys which really every organization need to be follow up for getting prepared for AI related goods or bets. So I think we can just summarize in that way.
Sure. And what can we expect from strategy, Vivek? We have high expectations out of you and your stakeholders.
I think it's too early to say anything, to be very honest. We're still figuring out how things are evolving. What one must understand is there is a lot of fear in this space, fear of missing out, fear of what will happen if AI will take over our lives, fear of whether AI will actually get rid of humanity and replace it with robots, etc. I think it's important, and one of the things that we're doing today is part of it is to really talk about it in great detail and spread the awareness of what's happening. There is a lot of information that's being generated. The world of AI is changing by the hour, by the day. There's new models coming out, there's new announcements coming out. So I think right now it will be too early, too difficult to expect a coordinated strategy of action or action from anybody. Yes, different governments will start passing laws and issuing policies. But very, very clearly, I think they are also just making sure that there is some stopgap arrangement for regulation. I don't think this is the final thing. It's going to be a constant state of evolution. I think if you have that clear and be ready to work on the situation incrementally, I think that's the only way you can go forward. Nobody, as I know today, is able to set a long-term strategy for what they want to do in AI in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. It's almost impossible to set that kind of course. All you can do is really articulate what your next step is going to be and be ready to pivot and evolve, be nimble, as and when this technology evolves, and it will evolve very, very, very quickly. I think if we have this conversation the same time in the next 6 months or next year, it will be a very, very different conversation. I think we'll be much clearer again, but there'll be new things that we'll be discussing about.
Perfect. And to round it off, as we can see that AI can be a brilliant personalized tutor to kids, and AI can also be a brilliant friend, very helpful friend, especially for the kids that have learning disabilities. But it also depends on the ideologies and the values of the people who are driving it and adopting it. So to your point, all of your point to the last question, I'll open it up for the audience to ask any questions. Please feel free to drop them in the chat box, or you can always raise your hand. Yes, Praveen.
Hey, thank you, Lucky. Prashant, Vivek, Jolly, Shreya. It has been a really great conversation on a Saturday morning. I have a few questions lined up. In the interest of time, what I'll do is I'll club a few of them so that it would be easy for you to revert. So we've seen that AI is actually transforming the way it is by feeding the data that we want to put in. I have a quick question around the fundamental architectures that our software enterprise applications are today levied, because we have microservices architecture, we have monolithic architecture, we have multi-tenant architecture per se for Salesforce. And as Prashant brought it up, there's this question around data exchange, consumption, interpretation, and integrations across system. Given the speed at which AI is catching up, is there a fundamental question of going back and rethinking our architecture per se? Should our solution architects reimagine the way our architectures are already in place today? So that's first of the few that I have.
So, just to respond on that, right, Praveen, what I feel is currently, because we are already so highly scalable across the systems, I think with the way, and again, that goes back to the point that I was making earlier, that the kind of transparency in terms of how, at least in the Salesforce ecosystem, how it should be implemented and how it will be managed, that currently we don't have that transparency. So once we understand what do you mean by that Einstein GPT layer, right, the trust layer, that will give us more information around how we really would want to either change the existing architecture for a particular program or across the programs, or if we want to, go ahead with whatever has been provided by Salesforce and build on top of it. So I think it's currently not very clear how we can go about these changes on the architecture. That's my personal point of view.
Understood.
Oh, thank you very much, Shreya.
Thank you.
I'll
Sorry.
just add one thing on this in the fundamental architecture, that currently it need to be defined by bigger corporations. Like there are certain uh, open AI, there are councils being built for ethical AI and so on. There are even pledges being done. So they are trying to build regulations and standards which everyone need to follow. But there are always going to be outliers who are not going to follow. You cannot enforce, for example, any uh, any ethics you make in China. Let's say for that. So there are going to be interesting takeaways, and I think there's not as long as people are relying on not inventing something and relying on some technology built by others, it's totally uh, useless to guarantee anything because people can change in a way. But if you understand the fundamental technology, for example, GPT as a technology, transformers as a technology, was first published by Google. But instead of Google building OpenAI, we saw some other company taking advantage of the white papers. And that's the best thing about uh, AI world. If you see before this business hype and all the papers are published online, and it's actually treated as a scientific community where any scientific paper, any research, no matter it is from IBM, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, any big company, they publish a research paper and everyone has access. So that's the best thing where computer scientists are doing this. So I'll say that keep an eye out for that if you're really interested.
Brilliant.
Absolutely, Prashant. Thank you.
And
Lucky, will it be okay if I go again, or I can leave room for others?
yeah, I'll just take a quick check. If others have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand and unmute yourself. Otherwise, we'll let Praveen move forward. And in the meantime, I'll also try to share my screen and give the QR codes for LinkedIn for all our panelists. Okay, looks like Praveen, the stage is yours.
All right. Oh, thank you very much. So maybe this question is to Vivek, in particular, Vivek. When it comes to policy making, like we want the government, the legislature, should it play the role of an enabler or should it play the role of a protectionist? I mean, like given corporations wants to move fast, but customer on the other hand wants to be in a safe environment. So should government balance it out or should they actually incorporate the private sector to be able to work out things efficiently?
I think that's the $1 million or $1 billion debate. I mean, honestly, it depends on the circumstances of that country or the economy, and it will change on a year to year or month to month basis also. So just to give you an example, um, countries like Japan, like I said, will have some idea of protecting their IP, but at the same time, they will want to encourage innovation because AI is going to be a large part of their industrial processes in the future. In India, we would also want to encourage innovation, but primarily from the view of protecting employment. Now, when AI starts replacing people in jobs, as it is bound to, what is the government's reaction going to be? I am not sure, but I don't think it will be um, very, very positive towards letting people go. Like if suddenly in Maruti Suzuki you have a super intelligent AI that has been implemented and that leads to the sacking of, let's say, 30,000, 40,000 people, I don't think that's something that the government will view very positively. You know, there will have to be some sort of transition timeline. Again, this is just my guess. I could be completely off the ball on this, but I think it completely depends on what are the outcomes that are expected, what are the priorities in the government's mind. Again, and it will change over time. It will not happen that there is a view and that will remain static throughout. Even after putting together, let's say, a protective policy, maybe they will be open to changing it to encourage more innovation or having more private sector forces sort of decide that. I think a good example of what may happen in the near future is maybe look towards what the White House has put out on 30th of October as the executive order. And a lot of companies have contributed to that. A lot of companies have reacted to that. So you can sort of get reactions on both sides, whether it's positive or negative. Uh, but the essence of it is there is going to be some some sense of regulation on where these AI models are going to come from. I think that's the only thing that you can reasonably regulate. You cannot regulate for bias. You cannot regulate for outcomes at this point of time because eventually, when the model goes out in the wild, there will be some impact that you haven't thought of, and it will be post facto, and you have to wait for it to happen before it is regulated. Um, so there are processes that you can regulate on. There is origin of model that you can regulate on. There's certain standards that you can regulate on. Um, I think that's about it. You know, apart from that, you really cannot do much more as of now. Maybe in the future you can do something more.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vivek.
Okay. I also dropped the link for the executive order, which we just talked about. So please.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anything?
I know we are on top of the hour. One final question will that do?
I think you can approach through LinkedIn or Twitter.
Okay.
All
Makes
of them
sense.
are active. I would like to take their closing remarks real quick. And as we are running late, so sorry, Praveen, but quick closing remarks from our panelists.
I can go first. So my remark is basically embracing the technology. I think that a simple thing is uh, there's a interesting case study why Europe is not, it used to be superpower. It is no longer the superpower. Uh, America was, and then China is, and India is going. But that's there because too much regulation, too much of restrictions can hinder uh, growth also, and that's one thing. And second thing is, whenever a new technology comes, it comes out to be scary. It comes out to be wild, but eventually we as a human species adapted pretty quickly. For example, vaccination, uh, or industrialization, or computers, or internet, or AI. Uh, it just makes things faster, more productive. And when we have better productivity, we have more time to think. When humans have more time to think, we create more opportunities. So it's the beauty of humanity. So embracing the technology is something which small, big, even whichever government does it will be winning.
Interesting insights, Prashant. Thank you for that. Shreya, you want to continue on that?
So I think I would say it's an exciting time basically, and it's good that we are a part of it. So let's just skill, reskill, upskill, whatever is needed to ensure that we are on top of what is happening. And of course, as Prashant rightly mentioned, right, it's the time we know that whenever a new technology comes in, there are hiccups. But this is something that has been developed by human for humans. So I think let's just go with that and let's see how far it takes us and how well it serves us. So yeah, that's all. Thank you so much, Lucky, for having us here. Thank you.
I'm honored. Jolly and Vivek.
Yeah, I can go. Okay. Yeah, I mean, security with respect to AI is a big, vast topic, but just to summarize in one line is like, just make sure that whatever information you get from Gen AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT, BART, or any of the tools, make sure you validate the outputs. And obviously, you need to understand that although there are a lot of powerful capabilities of this Gen AI tools and using AI in all the other domains, it also comes with a lot of cybersecurity risk, whether it's like data privacy, data security, or surveillance, or misuse of data. So just be vigilant and make sure whatever the Gen AI tools you are using, whatever the data you are prompting to the Gen AI tools, because you never know where and when and how your data is used by those Gen AI tools. Yeah, and thank you, Lucky, again for allowing me to share my experiences and the knowledge which I'm still gaining and shared with everyone. Thank you.
And finally, Vivek.
I'll just leave with this one parting thought. I think there has been a lot of discussion on AI, and I think it's biased towards the negative. There are many reasons for that, but I think I just like to remind you, we as a world population have gone through several technology transitions across the across the last 150 years, and there has always been a large amount of displacement in jobs, in lifestyles, in climate impact. And I think we are still navigating some of those changes, but I think more or less we've been able to do it. I think we just need to look to the past and figure out what are the things that we did it right and what are the things that we should be doing better, and prepare for this transition, because this is going to happen. I think it's inevitable. Either we lean into it or we sort of refuse or decline the approach, but it's going to happen. Now, I'm an optimist. I'm hoping that it's not as bad as it all sounds in the media and reports that are coming out to be. But yeah, I mean, there will always be people who will be misusing it. So I think as in more when we hear more about it and we discuss and we have this conversation around how do we take it forward, we'll have more clarity. But yeah, I'm an optimist. I don't think it's going to be all bad. I think we're going to figure a lot of these things out in the near future.
And thank you for sharing all the incredible insights. And one quick thing, Prashant is joining us from US, Jolly is joining us from Finland, Vivek just came back from Japan, and Shreya has found out time from her crazy busy schedule. So a big thanks to all our panelists and the ones still sticking around. I know we had some technical difficulties and I still see the participants. Thank you so much for staying back and spending your Saturday in festive season with us. It means a lot. And with that,
Thank you, Lucky, for doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. It was very interesting conversation. And I hope everybody liked it. Yeah, thank you so much all.
Yes.
Likewise. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
I'll send out the feedback form. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.